This episode is brought to you ad-free thanks to all of our wonderful patrons. You can get tons of exclusive content and help us keep the show going by joining at patreon.com/ShonenFlop. Welcome to this episode of Shonen Flop, where we talk about manga and Shonen Jump that didn't make it big. I'm David.
I'm Jordan.
Next week is our 4-year anniversary, Jordan.
Whoa, what the fuck?
So no chibi next week. Instead, we're going to rank everything we read this year.
Oh, God.
I can't believe it.
Jesus Christ, what the fuck?
Where does the time go? And after that, we're going to be covering Guardian of the Witch. So be sure to join the discussion in the Shonen Flop Discord. Find a link to it in our show notes or on our website, shonenflop.com. But this week, we are talking about Takama-ga-hara, and we are joined by Trent. Trent, thank you so much for joining us. And I said that really fast, so Jordan couldn't correct how I probably mispronounced the series name.
I feel like you did a decent job.
Oh, you know who else Takama-ga-hara?
What?
My mom.
What?
Ugh, I love regular show.
Okay.
Anyway, Trent, please, will you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Hey, I'm Trentin. I make YouTube videos on mostly axed Shonen Jump manga,
Whoa!
so it's fitting I'm here. That's pretty much me. Sometimes do art as well on the side, but mostly just read and talk about Shonen Jump.
God, you're just like me.
God, he's just like me, for real, for real.
For real, for real.
I also want to give a thank you to Portal Man. Thank you so much for recommending we have Trent on the show. So Trent, if there was one manga that you feel like we haven't covered yet on the show that you want us to cover, what would it be?
Oh boy, I can't say I've gone through like every episode.
No, it's totally fine.
We're having a 4-year anniversary.
What's a deep cut series that you think we probably haven't done yet?
What's a deep cut? Oh boy, I could pull some like 70s like series out of my ass, but
anything that's done in the last 15 years, you have like a 99% chance we haven't covered because we've covered like 4 series older than the 2000s. Watch Jordan as he's like, Saint Muscle would be great.
That's so hard because I've so many series like swimming in my brain from stuff. I'm trying to think of a cool one. Okay, this isn't a good one, but I think it's 1972's Musashi is coming to my brain. Ooh. Which is made by oh no, all the Japanese names are like leaving my brain. Motomiya is the author's name, who did Otoku Ipikigaki Daisho, which is a massive like old Jump manga. And Musashi is an axed manga of his, which I think is dreadful.
God, I love that. When you read something by like an author who is like a massive success and it's just garbage.
Hey, that's the point of our show.
I'm looking at you, guy who made My Hero Academia.
Yeah, or Black Clover.
Or Black Clover.
Or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Hey, well, I don't think Araki had trash, just weird stuff.
I like Bao.
Yeah, you're right. Anyway, guys, I'm going to be honest. I really don't know how I feel about this series. It's one of those ones where this conversation is going to... This is a hard one. So I can't even say, speaking of garbage, let's get into it. Speaking of what might be disappointment or might be good, we'll find out. This is a very weird episode and probably this will win for worst segue I've ever had. Jordan, tell us about the manga. I'm tired of talking.
So Tucker says that he thinks that the localizers added the hyphens so native English speakers wouldn't, to quote him, lose their minds over a foreign word with more than 4 syllables, so I'm assuming that Takama-ga-hara is just one word.
Yeah.
And yes, according to Tucker, Takama-ga-hara is the realm of the gods in Shinto mythology. Ah, that makes sense. But this is Takama-ga-hara, and it was written by Juuzou Kawai. Very cute. Notable people they had as assistants are Kenta Tsuchida of Lock On and Toge Toge. Tatsuyuki, quote-unquote, Mikey Maeda, who is a professional assistant that has done some stuff on YouTube. That's pretty cool. Check out his channel. Like and subscribe, I guess. Manabu Yashiro of, all caps, Tank Chair. That sounds amazing. Kentaro Hidano David of Super Smartphone.
God.
Trentin, have you read Super Smartphone?
I read Super Smartphone as it came out.
Oh, wow.
I'm so sorry.
It was a ride.
It's so funny because it's like, what's Super Smartphone about? It's about a guy with a super smartphone. There you go. And Kisuke Goto of One Operation Joker. Apparently all of these assistants worked on Takama-ga-hara, which is honestly insane to me that there were so many people involved in this manga.
You don't even know. MaxyBee gets into it. This was literally like, apparently they just needed anybody who could hold a pen was working on the series, because I guess they just need a shit ton of assistants to get us out the door.
That's crazy. But Juuzou Kawai's other works include 5080 5080, I guess, 2021 to 2022, one volume in Big Comic Superior / online. So this guy came back almost a decade after Takama-ga-hara was canceled. And this manga is, wow, it's a slice of life about a 50-year-old. God damn! That's like the oldest character I've ever heard of in a manga.
Yeah, and here I thought the guy from Kaiju number 8, when he was like 34 years old, was just turning to ash.
Yeah, he's living as a NEET, which, if you don't know, is not an education, employment, or training. Wow. Oh, that hurts. And is dependent on his 80-year-old parents. Apparently, it's kind of stopped. Didn't go that far. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about Takama-ga-hara. Ran from July 9th, 2012 to November 5th, 2012. It replaced Majiko by Naoko Iwamoto. Went for 8 volumes. Did all right. The series that replaced this, David, is Hungry Joker.
Oh, speaking of Black Clover.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah, have you read that one, Trent?
I have read Hungry Joker.
It's I'm really glad he made Black Clover after that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That is episode 15, by the way, so we'll be re-looking at that in, I guess, 11 or 12 years.
Yeah.
Maybe 11, because we cut out Robot Laserbeam, because it was racist.
Yeah.
But this series started at the same time as Assassination Classroom, which is a massive hit.
I also cannot believe that these came out this. They just feel so different.
Right?
Yeah.
This series, part of the U19 Club, 17 chapters, 2 volumes.
Oh, man. And Jordan, why don't we hear about what happened in those? Let's get into the plot summary.
The goddamn plot summary, let's go. Yamato Yamada is the middle child of 5 strong brothers. While his other 4 brothers love to fight, Yamato only wants to draw manga. He dreams of winning the Tezuka Award, but unfortunately, David, his manga is fucking garbage.
Yeah.
It is so bad that everyone who reads it almost dies.
We would have absolutely covered his manga in the show if he was a real mangaka.
Oh, God, yeah. After being drawn to the roof by a delinquent with a pompadour named Fukakyon, I love this because he did this by sending him a love letter. Well, it was a letter that just said, come to the roof, but Fukakyon has amazingly beautiful handwriting because he studied calligraphy, and Yamato just assumed it was a pretty girl, and then it was just a huge dude with a pompadour. Yamato ends up punching him and sending him flying into the sky when his substitute teacher notices this and ominously says to himself that he has awakened his Kamizawa. Kamizawas are powers that every human possesses, but very few actually discover. The next day, Fukakyon approaches Yamato with a shaved head and swears his fealty, making Yamato the new boss of his gang, even though Yamato wants nothing to do with it. When the gang is attacked by a creepy guy with a Kamizawa that shoots utility knives out of his body, though, Yamato shows up to save them. Mr. Suzuki finishes him off by using his own power to turn the knife guy into kanji and storing him in a book. Probably the coolest power in the whole fucking series. It's kind of rad. He explains to Yamato that he is actually a teacher at a place called Takama-ga-hara and invites him to come to the school, giving him a cool new uniform and spiky hair that activates when he uses his power, Popcorn David.
Later, Yamato fights a guy who creeps on women and drains blood from other people to become big and engorged. Haha, get it? It's like a penis. Thank you, Jordan.
Whoa!
Yamato saves his childhood friend, Mizo, from the weird, gross, engorged cult guy. He's approached again by Mr. Suzuki, this time with 2 hunters who are to be Yamato's classmates. Kumaso, a ventriloquist swordsman who makes a sword talk, and Uzumo, a nice guy who can turn animals into guns, giving us the best out-of-context manga panel of this entire series.
It's really good.
He says the Age of Myth is coming and brings Yamato through a gate, which disappears behind him. Yamato stands at the foot of Takama-ga-hara, which is a giant wooden mountain made of school buildings and was a super dope 2-page cover spread.
It was awesome. I love that shit. That is so cool.
Yamato must first pass the entrance exam, which involves knocking Kumaso off a rock, which he succeeds in doing in 1 chapter, so he didn't have to deal with a stupid fucking exam arc.
Thank God. And he does like the Alexander the Great Gordian knot style thing where he just, instead of knocking him off the rock, he just kicks the rock away.
Yeah, it was great. The three then go to school, where Suzuki tasks them with bringing order to the place. By taking down the leader of the school, they can get a special jacket, which lets them go home. But until then, they're stuck here. After fighting off a huge gang of students, the three meet Udahara, a wimpy kid who is being used as an errand boy by Taiju, the boss of the gang, and asks them to bring them down. The three then confront Taiju, and Yamato fights him in single combat. Popcorn Trentin.
Eventually, it becomes clear that Udehara is controlling Taiju with his power, while Taiju is using his own power, which silences everything around him, so Yamato can't tell his allies. However, Kumaso's ventriloquism training allows him to read lips, so he steps in and stops Udehara. It turns out that back home, Taiju used to bully Udehara, using his silencing powers to prevent people from hearing his screams. One day, Udehara punched him in the face, which activated his control power. Udehara then used Taiju's own power to silence himself and has been controlling him from the sidelines the whole time they've been there.
It's pretty fucked up. Like, everything around it is kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
After Yamato defeats him, Taiju becomes free but apologizes to Udehara because he now knows what it's like to be controlled, which I thought was really sweet, actually. Nice little kind of conclusion to that arc there.
Yeah, still very dark. It was literally like, nobody can hear me scream, basically. But apparently he was just saying, I'm sorry the whole time.
Yeah. And then we suddenly flash forward and Mizuho wakes up to find that she has a penis and no boobs.
Yeah.
I genuinely did not understand what happened in this. I kind of got, but it was like it made zero sense, right?
It's super confusing.
He tried to shotgun a ton of stuff in one chapter, and it didn't really work.
I've read this twice, by the way, and still, it threw me off. She's then approached by some evil Kamizawa users called Yomi, who activate her power, which returns her to normal, and say that she has the power of reversing yin and yang, which is important to their plan. Yamato, Kumaso, and Izumo appear with the cool special jackets and fight them off with their new buff powers. The leader of the Yomi turns into a big snake guy, and Yamato punches him into a building. Yamato says he will use his strength to protect anyone within his reach, and yeah, it just kind of ends.
It's one of the 3 endings that canceled manga can have.
Yep.
Where it's just like, it just pretends it's not canceled.
We'll see you next week.
See you next time.
Our adventure continues.
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
Nope. Bye.
Trent, do you mind telling us about the main character?
So Yamato Yamada, his kind of main, I guess, goal at the beginning is he doesn't want to fight, and he wants to make manga, which is initially kind of interesting, but it doesn't really go anywhere.
God, this is what like annoyed me is this had such a cool idea and then it shits itself.
Yeah, it gets brought up like a few times, and there's even like a side character who's mentioned a couple of times.
Yeah, his master.
And then never again.
Yeah, who's like a younger kid who's much better at making manga than he is.
And then is only in one chapter.
Yeah, he's in one chapter and then he disappears.
Yeah.
What a disappointment.
I know.
But yeah, and then his super ability is that he has really strong, and I like how he slowly realizes all of his limbs have super strength and not just his right hand.
I also love where he was like, man, I didn't kill Fukakyon when I punched him. It's so funny because it's like he goes into like plot holes that we've all just accepted. Like, oh yeah, you punch a guy so far away that he becomes like a speck in the sky. I mean, that's just manga. He's okay, right? But he's like, that was weird. I guess I have the ability to transfer my defensive powers into the people that I punch.
It's like when they try and explain Superman's abilities where he has like some some psychic field.
Yeah.
And you're like, no one gives a shit, man.
Yeah.
Or it's like the argument that the Hulk must have some kind of superpower that reinforces the ground he stands on.
Yeah, I'm just so disappointed. It's kind of bland. Also, Tucker has an interesting fact where their name is the same as the family name of the imperial family, who are traditionally believed to be a direct descendant of the sun god. And also, the term used to refer to the Japanese spirit, Yamato Damashi. So that's a little fun trivia from Tucker, so thanks for that.
They had like some names from mythology. I mean, there was Takama-ga-hara, obviously, which Tucker mentioned. But also, like, the king of Takama-ga-hara was Izanami, or it was Izanagi, I forget which one, but like, there was Izanagi, who's like a big god in Japanese culture, and then the leader of the enemy faction, the Yomi, who they mentioned quickly in one chapter because they didn't have time to set it up, is Izanami, who's Izanagi's wife.
Yeah.
So they were trying to do something there.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of this. Even like that snake guy is, I think his ability, or he's called like Yama.
Yeah, Orochi. Yeah.
And Kumaso, he's like nicknamed Yadagarasu. So there's a lot of that kind of myth in there, which you might be familiar.
Oh, that Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Yeah, that Yu-Gi-Oh card.
I mostly know all of this through Persona and Okami.
Yeah.
Those are the main ways that I know this stuff.
But I think we do need to move on to the next character. So, Jordan, can you tell us about the substitute teacher? Or, sorry, not the substitute. Well, I guess he's, you know what I mean.
He's kind of, he's Mr. Suzuki. Coolest power in the whole thing. He can conjify people. It's so sick. They're attacked by, you got that utility knife guy I mentioned, and he just, like, turns his entire body into kanji. So it's like all his hand turns into the kanji for, like, a bunch of letters for the kanji of hand. And then, like, his entire body gets trapped in blank books that he has,
which is a pretty terrible thing to do to people.
No, it's horrifying, but that's why it's so cool. Like, and he's just like, I enjoy sometimes just sitting around and admiring all the people that I have trapped in my books. Like, holy shit. Like, there are aspects of it that almost remind me of Heaven's Door, where he's like,
oh yeah, from JoJo,
yeah.
He somehow puts like a kanji curse on the main character, so he transforms into a different uniform when he uses his power.
Yeah, and also if he disobeys him in that uniform, he gets a straitjacket, essentially. He gets, like, leather straps put all over him. Yeah, Mr. Suzuki also, like, he has, like, an alternate identity where depending on if he has, like, a specific kanji on his neck, he turns into a nerd.
Yeah.
And then when it goes away, he turns into a cool guy secret agent.
Yeah, he also exists to dump a ton of exposition about having
so much exposition!
Imagine if that's like the kanji that was written on him is the word exposition.
Missed opportunity there.
Yeah. Oh, man. And then next up, let me talk about Kumaso, the sword guy. He kind of has like a Zoro Sanji relationship with Yamato where they're kind of friends, but they also hate each other.
Yeah.
Speaking of One Piece, it reminds me how Lucci also does ventriloquism. But yeah, it's just so silly that they put the speech bubble on his sword.
It's really good. No, he was, like, interesting because, like, he's so stoic, but, like, his sword says ridiculous shit. And it's like, you have to keep reminding yourself, oh, that's him saying that. He is saying this ridiculous shit through the sword.
Yeah, I got confused quite a bit, to be honest. I think I also forgot the sword talked, like, after reading it the first time as well, which didn't help.
It's very interesting that they were like, no, learning ventriloquism helps him be better at swords.
It lets him understand the voice of his sword.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see where that went, but I guess we'll get into that with where it could have gone. So I guess we have a whole section dedicated to talking about that.
Yeah, and then before we move into that, Trent, do you mind telling us about Izumo?
I would love to talk about Izumo because I think he's the best character of the manga.
He is!
Got an interesting design with his, I think, kind of pompadour and glasses.
Very stylish pompadour.
Yeah. He's also just kind of nice. Just cool to everyone, cool to Yamato, just an all-around nice dude. And then I think he is the character who is the best thing in the manga, which is the beast to gun ability with his squirrel gun.
So good.
Which I adore, and that's kind of what I think about whenever I think about this manga. It is amazing. It's also so well drawn as well.
So, like, the final chapter is kind of a mess, but it has one of the best moments in the whole manga, which is...
Yes.
Izumo shows up, and at this point, they've all, like, activated their Bankai or whatever. There was a time skip where they all leveled up. And so he just summons a ton of different animals, like a bear, they're like a lion, like all these other animals.
Just a shitload of guns.
And they all just turn into different fuzzy guns.
He really had the right to bear arms.
Ah, ha, ha, ha. Yeah.
I feel like that joke doesn't make sense in Japanese, but that would be great if that was the inspiration for his ability, because he does turn a bear into a gun.
Yeah. No, but it was sick. Like, that owned.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Those panels alone bring the manga up a letter grade for me.
Same.
I have some bad news in that we still, though, have to talk about where it failed. So let's move into that section and dive in. So, Trentin, what would you say is the first thing that really stands out to you as an issue the series had?
I think it's evident from the very beginning. It just throws so much at you.
Yeah.
And it throws so much out.
Yeah. But like it throws you Takama-ga-hara and the idea of the kamiwazas, and then it switches to your introduction to the main character and his 4 other brothers who I do love, but instantly you have like a full cast there, kind of. Then you just get more characters that just get piled on, and it wants to be this kind of gag manga, but then it switches to being a kind of more delinquent battle manga and then a supernatural battle manga. And I think that there's just way too much added on and things are just pushed along really unnaturally. I think chapter 7 is when Izumo and Kumaso and all the Takama-ga-hara stuff get introduced, and everything you've just experienced up until then, like the whole volume of content, just gets thrown away essentially, which is really unfortunate.
I think you hit on something about this manga, which is it doesn't know what it wants to be.
Yeah.
This manga is very confused. Yeah, like it starts out with like this kid, like he wants to be a mangaka, but like, oh man, he gets like this superpower and like his brothers wanted to be strong. And it's like, oh man, what's he going to do? You know, because he's so much better at being strong in a manga. How's he going to balance this? And then it's like, nah, he's got a power now. We're not going to do that anymore, because it also starts out, as Trentin pointed out, with like this weird cold open kind of, where it was just like, all right, let me explain to you about the Kamizawa, let me tell you. And it's like, you didn't really need to do that, honestly. It was completely unnecessary, especially because they go into a lot of depth explaining it again, and it's like, why did you even show me that? It just seems like a lack of confidence with the manga, because it's like, nah guys, wait, we're gonna have a power system, all right, I promise, all right, hang on. And it's like it didn't need that. It also just changes from, you know, like a monster of the week type thing to now we're at a school, and it didn't work.
No. And you can really tell that this is clearly he had to bail on his original idea with how many characters. And he had this weirdness where he like, it felt like he was like contractually obligated to keep the characters from the first volume showing up. Like literally, like why is the disciple Buddhist guy showing up at all? He shows up for like 3 pages in like a random chapter for what seems to be no reason. Same with the childhood friend character.
Well, it's more than that, because it's just like, why did you introduce these characters then?
Yeah.
Because like the idea is he's now trapped in a different dimension where he can't go see them. But it's like you spent like 7 fucking chapters introducing us to this cast of characters. And now it's like what about his brothers? His brothers were built up to be like a big important thing here. And then it's just, oh, they're not. Like, why did you do that? Why are they even here?
I always hate saying the phrase, it wasted our time. This really did.
It's a shame, like, because this series had some fucking potential, and it almost feels like he canceled his own manga.
Yeah.
What if, like, the Bleach Soul Society arc started at chapter 7?
Yeah, I agree. Trent, is there other things, though, that you feel like were issues with this manga?
I think you kind of nailed the Soul Society thing on the head there, because if this was done like later on, maybe after we've had a bit more time with the characters, it could be a cool like, oh, you've come to love all these guys for a while, we're taking them away for a little bit, but it does it way too soon. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is it like doesn't know what it wants to do, which is kind of the same as Yamato.
Yeah.
He feels so like aimless with his manga stuff, and he's like physically dragged into this world, because I think a few times he says like, no, I don't want to do this, and it's so hard to kind of get behind him as your main character. Like if your main character doesn't want to do this, then as like a reader, like, well, why do I want to go to Takama-ga-hara like as well? So yeah, I think that feeds into it as well.
I almost feel like the author felt obligated to make the school thing happen fast because he named the manga after it.
Yeah.
Because there was really no reason to do that other than you kind of had that cold open and you called it Takama-ga-hara, but there's no other reason to really do this, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like that'll be a fun thing to talk about, where it could have gone of how to revise this series. I also want to say, though, that I kind of am a little disappointed with the handling of Mizo, where they explicitly say she's completely useless in combat. Or it's like, you're setting up, like, at first I was like, oh, wow, look, a nice, respected, strong female character, not a sexualized design, you know, but still clearly feminine. And then they're like, oh, you're too weak to be relevant in this fighting series, so you're not really going to have a purpose.
See, I agree, but I also thought they were setting her up to, like, have, like, a Kamizawa where she was, like, super badass or something. But not really.
Yeah, it sounds like later on they were going to push that even further and make her a literal, like, plot device MacGuffin that the enemy wanted to kind of grab.
But then they didn't.
Maybe it would change, but yeah, from what we saw at the end, I'm not too sure.
I also want to talk a little bit about the art. Yeah, there are some great scenes of the art, but also like the art was kind of mid when it wasn't really working. The designs are kind of weird. And also the paneling was super strange at times. There's a scene where a panel is just horizontal or like rotated 90 degrees and you have to tilt your head to read it, which I can get why you would do that, but this wasn't a case because he's on the ground and the character is above him. It's not like he's, forced on his side. So you're trying to see how the character is looking. So I was like, I guess you just couldn't think of a layout to fit this panel without it being really weirdly forced in, because it's like, it just felt very weird and amateurish that he hadn't thought through his paneling and he had to have this really forced panel on this page.
The art in general feels kind of amateurish.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Nano Hazard's art.
Also, like, when they made it to Takama-ga-hara, like, the whole purpose of bringing them into a school is like, oh man, you meet all these cool dudes who are like all sort of like an X-Men kind of thing. But like, no, because they go to a school and like all of the students there have all shaved their heads and they look identical because they're in the same gang. And it really just flattens everything. And then it just turns into like, oh, a bunch of random dudes fighting each other. And it's like the first time we see it, it's like a dude turning into a Komodo dragon fighting another dude with like a power that I forget. And it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I can't wait to get to know these characters. And it's just, oh, they're just random lackeys in a crowd of other lackeys who look just like them. And it was really disappointing.
The series just shits itself as soon as it gets to the school. But I do think that we should probably talk about some positives because there are some things to enjoy about the series, which is why making a verdict for this is so hard.
Yeah.
So Jordan, as Mr. Positive himself, why don't you tell us what are some things you enjoyed about the series and why at the start we said we're having some trouble deciding what our verdict will be on this?
So the characters in general are actually pretty likable.
Yeah.
But also sometimes the art goes kind of hard.
There are some beautiful 2-page spreads.
The fight with like the huge, gross, engorged man, like he calls himself the engorged god. That was probably the best fight in the series, and that kind of kicked ass. I was like kind of on board for that fight.
I agree. I mean, that's what we wanted out of the series, but what can you do about it?
With a few series we cover, like Service Wars 2, where it's like, dude, just stick with like a Monster of the Week thing for a bit. Let us get to know these characters for a bit, and stuff, because when it was doing that, it was pretty good. Like, we're introduced to like that utility knife guy who's like totally like fucked up and weird. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And then Trent, what was something that stood out to you as a positive about the series?
There's quite a few, actually. I think it's just generally fun to read. It's so crazy and wild. Like, I'm always engaged, even if it's not the best thing in the world, which is always a good thing. One thing that stood out to me is these, like, sound effects. The author really likes to play around with them. There's some really cool ways he frames some panels with them now and again, and sometimes they're really big and bold. The, like, X-Acto knife, utility knife guy fight, where he does the like sound effect, where they're all like the same kind of knife pattern is really cool as well. I love like little playful things like that because clearly the author's just really thinking about them and thinking about like how can I make my like manga even more engaging on a level like beyond just having like good art.
There is definitely an Iraqi DNA to this beyond like the stand system, but like with the level of thought and like craftiness that Iraqi puts in that, I think really set this above other JoJo inspired series that we've read.
Speaking of which, can I just say, like, aside from maybe the main character's power, there's some interesting fucking powers in this series.
The fucking squirrel gun.
The squirrel gun?
Yeah.
Even the dude who has, like, utility knives stuck all inside him, like, they show an x-ray of his body and he's just filled with utility knives. They have, like, the guy who, he has, like, an arcade controller on his arm. He basically has a built-in power glove and he uses it to control guys.
So bad.
Oh, my God. It's so bad, David.
That's a movie to rewatch. The Wizard.
And of course, the kanji guy, where he just turns people into kanji and puts them in books. Like, really interesting ideas here that, like, go beyond, like, just, this guy shoots fire and shit like that.
Yeah, I think even like more than just interesting, they're always like really clearly presented as well.
Yeah.
They're just well illustrated, but they always, I don't know, the way they're drawn, even though they're these abstract ideas, they're just very well realized. Like the beast to gun, the kanjification looks amazing when it's like crawling up that guy's arm. And then the muscle guy, like you get to see the panels of him like grabbing onto someone, like sucking away their like muscle mass and stuff. So I don't know, that definitely added a bunch to the manga for me.
The muscle guy looks amazing, by the way. Like, he's horrifying. Like, the art makes him look so visceral and, like, he looks like a Titan from Attack on Titan.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, except better drawn. Take that.
He looks like the cockroach men from Terraform Mars as well.
Not familiar.
One thing I also thought was a really thread of the needle is he makes the main character, at least at the start, have a really big rejecting the call to action, but you don't feel like he's preventing the plot from happening or the character feels annoying. He legitimately feels like a guy who, just because he has the means, he should have the right to do what he actually wants to do, regardless of what society's trying to force him to do, you know?
Yeah. It's really interesting because it is like this idea where it's like, oh, you're good at this, so you should do this. And he's like, well, I don't want to. I don't want to do this. I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs.
God damn, I knew you were gonna. Fuck, I was about to reference that. You didn't. I don't know if Trentin, if you've seen that Spider-Man panel.
I don't think so, no.
So there's a very famous panel where Spider-Man has a villain where it's like, you can have all these like super advanced genetic modification stuff. You could cure cancer with this tech. And the guy legit, as Jordan says, I don't want to cure cancer with this technology. I really just want to turn people into dinosaurs with it.
That's great.
And it's just so, I mean, that's the mood of this series.
Yeah.
I also still love the rude idea that there's a delinquent school, but all the delinquents have superpowers, so it's really over the top.
Like, there were aspects of this that were cool. Like, even when they just start going into Takama-ga-hara, like, I really love the idea where it's like, everybody has, like, a superpower. It's just there's a good chance that, like, nobody will ever discover it. Like, an example they had was, like, if you have the ability to turn mud into coffee, like, when would you ever realize that that was a power you had?
Yeah, it often makes me think about like all those mutants that have like technology-based powers, and like what if they were born 1,000 years ago and you had the ability to control computers with your mind, so you didn't think you ever had superpowers.
I love how Udehara at first tries to trick them into thinking like his superpower is that he can give himself an extra life in video games. My power is Game Shark.
It's so great. And my power is talking about where it could have gone. So shall we move into that?
Let's do it.
So I think if it had just been a normal school, like the first chapter I described as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure meets Cromartie High School, and I think that would have been such a fucking awesome idea where imagine everyone in the school has these crazy powers, or the reverse where the main character is the only one with superpowers, but he doesn't want to use his superpowers, but everyone is more ridiculous than him even though he is the one with actual magical abilities.
I do really like the idea of like one of those anime or TV shows or like movies or whatever where a character seems to have no powers and he goes to a superhero school, but it's like, no, he's got powers. He just doesn't want to use them and just wants to be a normal kid. I like that.
Yeah, he just wants to turn people into dinosaurs.
Yeah. I like that idea, though. I like the idea where it's like, what if instead of going to a new school, it's just like the characters at his school start all developing powers.
Yeah, that would be a fun idea. And then how about you, Trentin? What's something you would have revised about this series?
Like maybe an easy way to just streamline it or just make it so you're not like throwing all these characters out is just to open up Takama-ga-hara a bit more. Maybe the series is more about flipping between the two schools. So there's a kind of like, I guess, normal side and a kind of shadow side or something that could be kind of interesting. I think that would at least stabilize it a little bit. I really like your like gag idea though. I think that would be much funnier and just enable like all these quirky characters and powers.
You know, I said like, he named it Takama-ga-hara, so he had to get them in there real fast. One Piece is called One Piece, and where's the One Piece?
Yeah.
But no, like, I really just think the simplest way to fix this series is to just push off the Takama-ga-hara stuff. I also think he really screwed himself over by making it like, you're trapped here now.
like that opening shot did not mandate that. It could have literally just been like, imagine it's like the school is just like across the street from his old school, you know? And it's just like, oh, I did always wonder why everything just seems so weird at that school. It is like, I think he was trying to solve problems he didn't even actually have, you know?
Yeah, because it is like, you're wasting these brothers. Bring the brothers back.
Yeah, make the characters relevant. Just really should have done that.
The brothers are cool. Make the brothers do something. Bring the brothers into the plot.
Kind of small idea. Like, I love the brothers and wish there was more of them. We also got like a glimpse that Mizuho had the same kind of setup with the like 5 sisters. I can just imagine some funny gag chapters like with the 5 sisters and brothers like clashing and stuff. But again, it never got to use, it didn't get to use any of that.
I actually thought for like a second that it was like some weird thing where that was the brothers and they got their genders reversed as well.
Well, I mean, there's precedent for that in the manga.
That fucking last chapter should just be not read when you're reading the series.
The last chapter is more or less a next time on Takama-ga-hara. Like,
Yeah.
here's a preview for next season that doesn't happen.
Yeah, just a big band-aid that had to be there.
Yeah.
We should just pull a fucking, it's like, and now here's the preview for our next section. Just play a clip from the section that we're about to go into, which is miscellaneous thoughts. So let's hear that clip. Thank you, Dylan.
Next time on Shonen Flop.
It's just so fucking stupid. Fucking, who would have thought we'd say that in the next section? So let's get into miscellaneous thoughts. So in terms of miscellaneous thoughts, that also made me think about my favorite clip show ever is, have you guys seen Clerks, the animated series?
No, but you've mentioned what you're about to say.
Yeah, so Trent, they do a clip show as their second episode. So because there's only 2 episodes, they keep showing flashbacks of things that happen in the very same episode the clip show's in.
Okay.
It's just so fucking stupid.
Sounds like some Gintama stuff.
Oh yeah, Gintama would definitely love that.
Oh, God. No, I've heard the Clerks TV show's great.
It's only like 8 episodes, man. Just go watch it. Anyway, Trent, sorry not to steal your thunder. What are some miscellaneous thoughts you feel you haven't had a chance to say yet?
A couple of times throughout this manga, it keeps mentioning Virtua Fighter and Street Fighter, which I thought was interesting. And I think there's clearly some like the author must love fighting games, I guess.
Yeah,
because they're mentioned a couple of times, and I can definitely see some of the characters being in a fighting game. Yeah, nothing too deep there, but as a player of like fighting games, I found it kind of interesting.
What's your main fighting game?
Guilty Gear Strive.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Not Street Fighter, unfortunately.
Nice.
I respect that. I was a big Fighters fan.
Not Xrd, or however you pronounce that.
I played a tiny bit of Exard, but I mostly just play Strive.
I just like that it's called Xrd.
Yeah, Exard, Revelator, whatever. Yeah.
All the names in Guilty Gear are amazing.
I mean, the main guy's name is Soul Bad Guy, Jordan.
I know! It's amazing! They have characters named after, like, metal bands, like, what is it, like, Slayer and Testament, I think, are in there.
Yeah. So anyway, Jordan, do you have any miscellaneous thoughts?
Yeah, since that has nothing to do with Takama-ga-hara. No, it was interesting to see, like, there were little tiny, like the little drawings at the end of the manga that sometimes, like, you know, like, show up generally, like, on the last page. Just, like, some author doodles were kind of interesting. Like, it goes into, like, the family trees of, like, Mizuho's family and the Yamada family, kind of, where it's, like, this person likes this person, likes this person, likes this person. And ends with Yamato's oldest brother likes his mom.
Aww.
Those doodles were also the final time we got any mention of him being interested in manga, where he was like, man, maybe this will help me get better at manga. And it's like just this tiny doodle. And that's it. It's never mentioned again.
Oh, I still really wanted where he gains these superpowers and then he just uses it. Imagine like you have a super powerful, like super strength in your wrist so your arm doesn't get tired so you can just constantly make manga. And that's how he applies his superpowers. That's really what I thought they were going to do with the series.
Reminds me of drawing restraint.
Also, my main miscellaneous thought is this kind of feels like what Chagacha wanted to be, where it's about ruffians with superpowers as like a gag manga action series. Trentin, I don't know if you've read that series. It has the fame of the fastest cancellation in Shonen Jump history, and it's by the creator of Bobobo.
I have unfortunately read Chagacha.
I'm sorry.
I get what you're saying though with that. They definitely have some overlap. Takama-ga-hara is more enjoyable of the two.
Yes, easily.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure with Chagacha, the author of that series just gave up, right?
He was like, dog, this ain't working, and just quit.
I'm sorry, man. This is bad. I'm sorry. Bye.
Anyway, fellow UKer MaxyBee calling in from England, they have some trivia for us where they say Takama-ga-hara has a lot of assistants credited, as they alluded to at the start of the show. That's what the author calls a level of shorthandedness greater than any in the history of Weekly Shonen Jump. As such, instead of a regular crew of assistants, Kawai was supported by literally anyone they could get.
Oh my god.
Let it be an established author, a newcomer, or a professional assistant. He only managed to credit people who turned up more than once and still had over 14 assistants.
Jesus Christ.
Right? Jesus, someone did a different panel of every page. The one-shot version of this series failed to win the 2011 Golden Future Cup, losing to Hungry Joker. Despite this failure, it still managed to beat it to serialization by 4 months.
Oh my god.
Until Hungry Joker replaced it. What a fucking twist.
Yeah, and well, don't worry, dude, because Hungry Joker also didn't last very long.
And this was way better than Hungry Joker.
Yes, this was a lot better than Hungry Joker, honestly.
Yep. Oh, speaking of self-reference, the issue of Shonen Jump Musashi picks up in chapter 1 while chiding Yamato is the exact same issue of the series, the exact same issue the series debuted in.
Oh my god.
Oh god, imagine if it really went full fourth-wall break and he starts reading it to figure out what's going on. Like, how do I beat this guy? Oh, let me see how this chapter goes.
He like opens it up and he's like, wait a minute, I'm in the manga. What the fuck?
And then he sues Shueisha and it just turns into a legal drama. That's pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah.
The plot's stranger than fiction, but oh well.
Kinda.
And finally, Takama-ga-hara is an actual thing in Japanese mythology, primarily in the Shinto religion, as the abode of the heavenly gods connected to Earth via the floating bridge of heaven. Is mentioned in the Kojiki as the birthplace of the gods, is considered to exist in the clouds above the sea, and is ruled by Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun. And similarly, Yomi is hell. And finally, some volume extras include inter-chapter gag sketches, assistant credits, which I'm sure needed multiple pages.
Oh my god.
And a 3-panel epilogue for our main trio.
Yeah.
Oh god. So thank you, MaxyBee, for that. And Tucker also provided some interesting trivia where they say, as you might imagine, the series is stuffed to the gills with references to Japanese mythology. From the little hints and references at the end of the series, I strongly suspect the original plan for the story was to borrow heavily from the myth of Izanagi and Izanami.
Izanagi and Izanami.
Sure. Which is the Shinto creation myth. It has a lot in common with the Greek tale of Morpheus and Eurydice.
Wow, you did it. You pronounced Eurydice right. Well, you've been playing Hades.
No, I saw Hades Town.
Oh, same thing.
Which is very, very, very good. Trentin, I don't know if you've seen Hades Town, but it's excellent.
I'll have to check that out.
It's a musical inspired by their story set in like the South in the 1920s.
Okay.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, Hades Town, it's very good. So basically, the god Izangi's wife, the goddess Izami, dies. Izanagi descends into the underworld, Yomi, to try and retrieve her, but he fucks up at the last second, resulting in a curse that introduces mortality to humanity. I bet you $1,000 Yamato was intended to eventually break into Yomi to retrieve Mizo at some point as an allegory to that legend, and it is pretty cool how similar that is to that Greek myth, but I'm sure that's a coincidence.
Yeah, holy shit. That is very similar. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then, oh, Jordan, here's the Shin Megami Tensei reference.
Oh, I knew about this, yeah. Izanami is the goddess referenced in Megami Tensei, which means reincarnation of the goddess. By the way, that's only relevant in the original Megami Tensei, which nobody fucking plays, so...
Yeah, but that is cool that it is the reference, and it is also time for us to make the 6-word summaries, so let's dive into the final verdict. Does that sound good, everyone?
Let's do it!
Yep.
So let's get started with some 6-word summaries from the community. From Tucker, Japanese Heaven is a high school. MaxyBee said, Takama-ga-hara turns me into a Takama-ga-hater. Or a paladin, bizarre yet somehow not bizarre enough. Blamumu, arbitrary school setting claims on our victim. Chicken Warlord, divinely talented school recruitment embarrassingly forceful. Diego says, shoot him with the squirrel gun.
Yeah!
Dude Rock, squirrel gun should have saved it.
Yeah.
Generic Man said, squirrel gun is pure Araki energy. And Squirrels in My Pants by Candace Flynn. Oh man, I love that show. And why have we had 3 squirrel references in a row?
It's like the best part. It's the coolest part of the manga.
Yeah, it does. Glornak says, Yamato's bizarre adventure, shitpost weightlifters. Isekai Sensei, tautology, kami, manga gamers, half-hearted rationalization.
Tautological.
Whatever. Captain Kahlua says, for his neutral special, squirrel gun.
Nice.
Laurel Nopis says, just one shot with squirrel gun.
A lot of squirrel gun stuff, and I don't blame you.
Yeah, Portal Man, reject martial arts, embrace manga arts. Quack, squirrel gun, save this dude manga. Quetzal says, story, strongest there is, ending Red Blade, manga file, martial artist, then squirrel guns.
I feel like that was supposed to be an alliteration at the very beginning, but then Red Blade was just like, fuck it. Like, squirrel guns.
Yeah. Riel says Takama-ga-hara. Spubby said, what if SWAT was actually tolerable? I was thinking about SWAT a little bit.
Oh my god!
Spike just goes, ah.
Real quick, Trentin, have you ever read SWAT?
I have a video on SWAT, so yes.
Oh, that series sucks!
And yet it's not the worst thing that offer made.
Yeah, that's true. Have you read Zon?
I have not, and I'm dreading reading Zon one day.
It is the worst drawn thing that's ever been published in Shonen Jump.
It is somehow worse than SWAT.
Yeah, and then finally, Trafalgar Wolfwood, who's listening in right now, and dared me to say his name in the chat.
And you did it!
There you go. Says, terrible mangaka punches into unfortunate flop. And
Nice.
Trentin, what was your 6-word summary?
My 6-word summary, I don't think is very surprising, but it is Beast to Gun is very fun.
I like it.
I like it. How about yours, Jordan?
Kids bad at manga, not punching.
That's a good one, too. Mine is when everyone's special, no one is, or alternatively, rough students, rough plot, rough.
Oh, did Ravioli write that one?
Yeah, Ravioli wrote that. Guess written by my dog. Finally, though, Jordan, I've been dreading this. It is time to decide, is this a flop or not? Trentin, what do you think?
While I enjoy reading Takama-ga-hara, second time going through, it is a flop. Just does not come together.
Yeah. How about you, Jordan? What do you think?
There's a lot of potential in this series. There's a lot of good in this series. The series just fumbles it, though, so it's a flop.
This is one of the best flops we've read. It's up there with Spirit Busters, but the first 9 chapters, I really thought this was something good. And then as soon as he gets into the school, it just shits itself.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Oh, God, it is a shame.
It's just sad when we read manga like this, where it's just like, God.
I was rooting for it so hard.
You had me, man.
All right, so Trentin, what should someone check out instead of this series?
I think if you really like all of the quirky abilities and are a bit disappointed by Takama-ga-hara's world building and weird stuff it's building up to, the currently ongoing Undead Unluck in Weekly Shonen Jump, I think will scratch some of those issues. It is great. It's one of my favorite manga currently, and I think everyone should read it.
And sorry, what was the name of it?
Undead Unluck.
Oh, yeah, we have a lot of people in our Discord obsessed with that series. Maybe we'll do a Patreon episode because people keep talking about it.
Yeah, I've never read it.
How about you, Jordan?
See, one of the difficulties here is that, like, because the manga doesn't find its footing, it's hard to, like, think of manga that are that similar to it. Like, it's got a bunch of pieces and stuff. I don't know. I saw it was Greek Easter, and I watched Last Temptation of Christ. That was a pretty good movie. All right, watch that.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Anyway, my recommendation is a manga I just read recently called Becoming Mari. I don't know, Trentin, are you familiar with that series?
Becoming Mari? I know Inside Mari.
Oh, I'm sorry, Inside Mari.
That is an interesting pivot, I think.
I just want to tell people it is a very interesting series. I don't really know how. Definitely you can read it really fast. I read it all in one day. So for listeners, essentially it's about a stalker who's stalking a teenage girl and then wakes up in her body the next day.
Oh.
It just is much more complicated than that. There are a lot of twists and turns. If it's 80 chapters long, is it a spoiler to say something that happens in chapter 8? What do you guys think?
No.
So he goes to try and find his original body because he's like, oh, she must be in my original body, right?
Yeah.
Except she isn't. His self is still also in his original body.
Whoa.
And you'll just have to read it to find out what the fuck's going on.
Damn.
There's a really good YouTube video by Keiko Cat called The Incel to Trans Pipeline and Inside Mari. It is such a good video. I highly recommend if you've read Inside Mari.
Yeah, it is definitely has some LGBT elements to it. But Jordan, is this the worst thing we've ever read? I think it's pretty safe to say no. This is actually pretty good on the spectrum of things we've read.
Anytime when we're like questioning whether it's not a flop, it's obviously not the worst series we've read. The truly bad ones, there's no discussion about. It's just like, I mean, there's discussion about it, but there's no wavering. It's like Metallica Metaluca is garbage.
School Judgment is garbage.
School Judgment is criminal.
Yeah.
Trentin, have you read Metallica Metaluca?
I have. I don't really remember much about it other than it's medals.
It's bad, Hunter.
I think someone's 6-word summary is Hunt or X Huntor. And I was like, that's really good. Anyway, you know what else is really good? Hearing everything that the guest has got going on. So Trentin, I want to hear all about that as we migrate into the wrap-ups. So take it away, Trentin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
You have been our first ever guest from Wales, and I could not have asked for a better representative. So please, though, if more people want to get your content in their life, where can they find you?
You can find me at Trentin Art, which is Trent, Inart. I basically just do tons of videos on Shonen Jump, which are mostly split between my Axe Files, which is a pun on the X-Files because I love that series, which very similar to here. I just kind of do a little 10 to 15 minute deep dive on an Axe Shonen Jump manga. I've covered like SWAT, that's one. I kind of do read-throughs on my Discord and we kind of read through them and pick one. I have Blue Dragon Ral Grad coming, and then Aliens Area.
Oh, Aliens. You're doing Aliens Arena 64?
Oh, yeah. I love Aliens Areola.
The joke is that, like, when we were covering it, we couldn't stop saying Aliens Arena.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I should watch the episode on that one.
I will say it has some beautiful volume cover art.
Okay, I'm excited because I love your art. The other half of my channel is about the history of Shonen Jump. So I've basically gone from the very beginning of Shonen Jump in 1968 and gradually just kind of covered the majority of the manga that was in the magazine, either reading what I can or just finding tidbits of like all these old series. And I've gone from the very beginning up until 1984, where Dragon Ball began.
That's awesome.
And it's been such a fun like journey for me because if you can't tell, I adore Shonen Jump, and just reading like every single manga I can from it.
You and MaxyBee would be best friends.
I'll have to get their contacts. I'll follow them on Twitter after this.
I mean, they do unironically live in the UK, so you could go talk about it. But that's awesome. That's so great. Have you read Dragon and Chameleon, by the way?
I am. Yeah, I should be caught up, I think. It's so
I don't
good.
understand how he had it in him after he made Amalgam Distortion. It was like insane, the glow up this author had.
It's the same guy? What is... Okay.
Yeah, he made Amalgam Distortion.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, that's crazy.
That's why I read it, because people were like, it's like how the dude who made what are some other ones, Jordan? I'm spacing on it. Tista went and made Spy Family.
Spy Family? Okay.
Or how Instant Bullet made Love is War. It's just like, where did this come from?
Look, sometimes you just need a good idea to like make your skills come out and shine, man. Like you just need the right one.
Oh God. But Jordan, you're the right one for me. So I want to say thank you so much for making the opening and ending themes, being a great co-host and helping with the editing.
Thank you so much, David, for all the work that you do. Really appreciate it.
Props to Merliel for the awesome cover art. Find her online at Lyle Mer, and Nigel for being our generous art benefactor. Thanks to Dylan for assistance of editing. You can find his podcast Anime Out of Context at animeoutofcontext.com. Thanks to Tucker and MaxyBee for assistance with pronunciation, translation, other miscellaneous research. Find us on X at Shonen Flopcast, Tumblr Shonen-Flop, and our website shonenflop.com. We're also on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, or wherever else you get your podcast. And come join the Shonen Flop Discord. Have a big community, over 600 people, talk about anime, games, or whatever else is on your mind. You can submit your questions and your 6 summaries there and just say howdy to all of us. It's a good time.
Hey.
Yeah, we got a good crew. We even have the official One Piece translator on. He sometimes drops little nuggets of wisdom, which is always cool to hear.
Hell yeah.
You can find a link to it in the show notes or on our site.
Stephen Paul, what's up?
And if you've been enjoying the podcast and want to help us keep going, consider subscribing to our Patreon. Wouldn't be able to keep the show running without their support. We just revamped the Patreon. We are now getting episodes out in a full 2 days in advance. Jordan's been working real hard with me on doing that. We have the Shonen Drop, where we are recapping what went on in last month's episode, along with us answering some exclusive questions. And of course, you always get some exclusive episodes as well. Jordan, what is the big episode we are dropping this month for our patrons?
This month, we are catching up on our chibi guesses, and we're going to do a little bit of an art review, David.
Yeah, there we go. And you could even been listening into our recordings right now or listening to the warm-up audio. Find it at patreon.com/shonenflop. And on that note, I want to read some of our wonderful patrons. Starting with our dolphin dads, we have Glornak. I really need subtitles half the time. I can't even understand what the fuck I'm saying. And Rachel, my wonderful wife, who was gone this weekend and gave me a David weekend where it was just me and the goblin. and she delivered me cake, and that was really sweet of her. Next, we have the Ravioli tier, where you get weekly photos of my adorable goblin Ravioli. And just a reminder, everyone who upgrades into that tier, I will send you Magic the Gathering Ravioli tokens. They are goblin tokens I have made of my dog. We have Chris, Eva, Lady T, Matt, T, and Trevor Schechner. Moving on down to the King of the Forest, we have 090Z, Bandit Stoof.
My girlfriend. We're going to Disney.
Oh yeah, that's so nice of her.
Yeah.
Jacob Andrew Galloway, Justin Hefner, Kirby Munt, Marty, Max Baker, Riley 3.14, Sarah Hydra, T. Wolfwood, and Tommy Boy. And a big thank you to our Galactic Ball Federation officers and our Beast Children.
Thank you so much. I love all of you. You are all my children.
And Jordan, anything else you want to toss in?
Yeah, I don't know. Listen to Mission Ignition. I'm going to Disney World, David.
Yeah.
We're going to Disney World.
Well, all that's left now is let's get into sign-offs. Thank you so much for joining us. Tune in next Monday as we rank every series we have ever read for this show. Happy 4 years, Jordan. This has been David.
This has been Jordan.
This has been Trentin.
And you've been listening to Shonen Flop.
Keep on flopping, floppers. Yeah.
Yeah. Bye. My recommendation is a manga I just read recently called Coming Inside Mari. I don't know if Trentin, are you familiar with that series?